Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, where we're going to look at 10xing the hobby from the perspective of some baseball fanatics who are not baseball collectors. They love baseball. For many years, I've hosted, right before the baseball all-star game, a baseball dinner for serious baseball fans. I always fill up the table. We had 17 guys there, including me, a couple of collectors, but mostly not collectors. I took time to say, hey, for the record here, what is it about collecting? You guys love baseball. It was all men. Why are you not collectors? Or what would entice you to be a collector? If we get 10x, you think we'd want to start with the people that are most serious about following baseball. There were a number of authors. People had strong connections to the sport, not just fans, but participating in a bigger way. It was a distinguished group. Thanks sponsors, Topps Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, Compsy.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. No one was prepped for this. I just said, I'm going to turn on the microphone, but you can hear from these, my friends, on your own. You may recognize a couple voices, but as I said, they're mainly not collectors. A couple notable examples, but really wanted to hear from the baseball fans. So here it is, and thank you, my friends, and thank you, my listening friends. Hope you enjoy this perspective on the difficulty of 10xing the hobby. One of the things in the baseball card and sports card industry is how fanatics wants to 10x the hobby, the smaller hobby, and make it an industry with 10 times as many people. To do that, they have to convert people like are in this room who may be huge sports fans, but not necessarily collectors. And some of the old school guys think, wait a minute, you're either a collector or you're not. You can't convince somebody to be a collector. Some people are interested and some people are not. Just like Vegas. You can go to Vegas, but some people are gamblers and some people are not. Some people like to express their love for something in certain ways. So I'm just curious for the people in this room, what do they think about collecting memorabilia or cards? Talmud, you're so into it, but I don't think you have a card collection. I don't know that you even have an autograph collection or a memorabilia collection.
My mother didn't throw my cards away. So I have from
What do you tell them?
60 to 65. And I put it all in one of those plastic sleeve notebooks. But when the baseball card phenomenon came back in the early 80s, mid 80s, whenever it was, I'd go to those baseball card shows and I would love every second of it. I would say, I feel like I'm walking back into my childhood and this is a good feeling. I'm seeing all these pictures that I adored as a kid. But then over time, I started buying no-line rookie cards and cards that were a little more expensive. And over time, I had an epiphany one day. I said, this is endless. I could spend all my money on cards and I couldn't come close to having anything close to a quote complete set or whatever it was. So that epiphany made me just pull in the reins and say, you know what? I'm going to keep what I've got. But you go to those card shows, there's so many things you'd like to buy. And that's the problem. So that was my history with collecting. I'm glad I've still got my childhood cards and I look at them from time to time. But in terms of wanting to buy any more cards, no.
So do you think it's not worth it for a huge marketing effort to try to convince people like you to get back into collecting?
I think that
because the ship has sailed?
I'm sure there's a lot of people who have studied the psychology of collecting. And what buttons do you punch to cause somebody to want to collect? And I haven't ever thought about that. What triggers somebody to say, that's what I want to collect. But
are they marketing to greed, though? That's what I'm curious about. Yeah. You have the chance to get something really great that you could make money. You can enjoy, connect with your sport, connect with your heroes. And
there is the business side. And yes, there are people who make money off their collections. I never wanted to make money off of baseball cards. It was all about just appreciating memories from childhood and having kept up with these guys and maintained an interest in history and what did they do when their playing days were ended, so forth. I maintained an interest in these guys as people and had the chance over the year to interact with many of them. And I was so glad I did. It was people.
Back then, there was no digital card. Mm-hmm. Now you have a real card and you have a digital card. Some of the pricing just gone way out of hand.
But if I was retired, I would think a lot more about something like that, and particularly engaging with my grandchildren and getting them to appreciate the love I have for the game and teaching them about the glory of the times and how baseball has shaped America and how you see the ethnicity of our country as they came through Ellis Island and all those things I would definitely get more engaged in. if the time was left.
Don, when you have such a spectacular collection, when people find out of it, you talk to them, that they say, "Oh, tell me how I can get started," or does it fall on deaf ears? 9 out of 10 people. Are you an evangelist for card collectors because it's a free opportunity to get involved in something, or do they just say that's not for me? That's fine for you, but not for me.
Take, for example, Mike Trout. There is over 1,000 new cards of Mike Trout every year.
Different.
If you want to know what the definition of infinity is, try putting together the master set of Mike Trout. I'm thinking about it. Like, in one year, they produce over 1,000 cards.
Different.
That means during the year, you have to buy 3 or 4 Mike Trout cards a day just to stay up with trying to, if you can get the cards. And it involves a large capital expenditure. And it's frustrating. I think they've overwhelmed the card market to where the kid can't collect Mike Trout anymore.
What was so fun for us as kids, it was just tops. It's like we have these memories of the newscasters. It was just Walter Cronkite and Huntley Brinkley and Howard K. Smith, and it was just the tops cards. Now, if you got 1,000 Mike Trout cards, I don't even know what to do with that.
Those kids were interested in the bubble gum.
To put the cards in the spokes of our.
That's what happened on mine.
I put the gun in this book.
When we were all little kids, we'd go down to the corner store and for a nickel, we'd get a pack of cards. Today, I go into these card shops and they're wanting $20, $30 a pack. And I'm sitting there going, what little kid can come in here and buy a pack of cards? Unless he's packing as well.
I was part owner in a card shop. People would come in and buy 10 packs and they open them on the counter and they were looking for the insert chase card. It's like legalized gambling. And literally they would leave the wrappers and the cards on the counter. They didn't care about trying to put the set together. It's all about trying to find that 105, 103, or 101.
But these are marketing wizards. Fanatics is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They have marketing experts. So they're barking up the wrong tree. They're trying to appeal to greed or some sense of completion or... Card collection came because your mom and dad did it, or they brought you a card. And in other words, we learned how to collect cards. We didn't go out and collect cards. It was a byproduct of our environment. They're trying to get people to start a card collection, and there's no ties to family and no ties to baseball necessarily.
But yeah, they are marketing of green. The two great motivators of green fear, right? An example of my boys who are now 27 and 31. Okay. They grew up around me. I worked at Beckett the whole time. Okay. I would bring home packs. We mess around with them and do stuff that dads and kids do. But now think about the age they're at. Okay. Collecting cards is entertainment, right? It's a pastime and there's a little bit of investment angle to it. They can do the same thing with DraftKings. They're more interested in putting $5, $10 on a game or a parlay, a bet, and have the same amount of fun for the same $10. They're not betting a whole bunch of money, but it's just like playing the game. Yeah. And it's easier and it's on their phone.
There's more gratification when they win.
They're still following players. They're betting whether Mike Trout will get a hit. They're betting whether that player will get 2 hits or they'll go this many innings and then a parlay of those things. And so they're still following baseball. They still love the game.
But am I out of step with the people in this room mostly if I would rather spend 3 hours at a card show than 3 hours at a ball game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The 10X is think these people that otherwise would go to a game for 3 hours would rather go to a card show. And that's the 1 out of 10. I don't think it's the 9 out of 10.
No.
Well,
because it's more personal. It's the collecting gene, which is not common to me.
I'll toss out 2 things that may make no sense to a big marketing monolith. In my 20 years of what I'm representing professional athletes, I had access to a lot of players and I would get oftentimes a card, sometimes a photograph, but I would always ask the athlete, would you not personalize it necessarily to their name, but put something very personal on it? Stan Smith would put a scripture. Spud would say something about David and Goliath, or a certain athlete say a champion gets up one more time than he's been knocked down. Something that was meaningful, either written on that card or written on the photograph. It was adding value to the thing and became very valuable to that person. It became unique. My kids got a lot of those things. I didn't really care that much about memorabilia, but I would always have them write something real special. Tony Dungy wrote something about the Blakely boys, real personal. And they framed them on their own. They've laminated them. They've taken great care of them. So they're collectors, but they're not trying to get a whole set of something. The other thing that I don't see, maybe it's been done, but all the games I've gone to, bobbleheads and other things, I've never seen cards handed out at a game. If I was a producer of cards, I've worked something with every single team saying, hey, we'd like to give out 5,000 or 10,000 cards of Otani or whoever the top player, all the players, starting lineup, to get kids starting on collecting at games.
That happens, not all the time, but when it happens, the collectors are waiting at the gates to
call up.
board on.
What's the key to being a successful professional of card collecting?
Being there early. Back in the day. No, it's hard to say. It's more complicated. And I think that's the other thing, is that Talmadge is this paradise of choice, which ones, and there's so many. Don is saying it's gotten very complicated.
I think another factor is that when we were growing up, players, for the most part, stayed with the same teams. There wasn't near as much shifting around. So if you're in Houston and you got the Houston Code 45 and the Astros, you know who's on the team, those are the cards, you read about them in the paper, you feel a familiarity. And now it's just chaos with players trading so many. Very few people can stay with one team. You list them on one hand. So I don't think you have the same loyalty. That was the part of it for me, was when I get these people, I feel this personal connection that I don't think you can feel if somebody's here one year, gone the next, differently, never see them again. I think that's part of it too.
That's pretty international. I think it's really critical.
Think of those Cubs teams.
Yeah, that's what we experienced. These horrible Cub teams.
But you knew every player.
Every player, and I can cite their statistics and cite everything else. You can't. It was about a personal connection to the player. But I never thought of that as an investment. The other thing we would do is we would build statements, fold IVs, and whatever stuff we had, and then we would put the players out at their positions, and then we would take them off the field when their at-bat was over, and then we put the other two players out there. But I never thought it open as an investment. And when my mother threw away my extensive confidence, I never even thought about it. And instead it was.
Jim, you're saying there's a collecting gene in the DNA.
I think there's a little
You
bit.
can't create it. You have to activate it. So the only way they're going to get people to do it is to activate that gene. I mean, and if the gene's not there,
And where's their target? Is it kids in their 20s or men in their 20s and 30s? When we started out as kids, 70% of boys and baby boomers collected baseball cards. I said, today, I'm the one percentage of kids collect cards. It's probably now.
I think there's a lot to what they're saying, though. When you were a kid, I spent way more lines or whatever. You take your money, you go to the store and buy cards, right? But you had a real possibility of actually getting a whole set. Like it was a goal complete. It was a tail. Yeah, you had to work hard to do it, and you had to spend some money. But it was possible. You could do it. And sometimes you got with another buddy, and then you would start trading with your friends, right? Because that was part of the whole deal.
No.
But not only do you know stats, I could bat like everybody on the team. I could go through the whole batting order and tell you, hey, this is how they batted. But I think the attainability was a big part. And having that community where you traded, but look, like just with your small community, and then obviously that could get bigger to a bigger community.
I think another part of it was where with the kids, when you're shuffling, you're putting in your bicycle, you're putting them in your pocket. Then when this whole baseball card phenomenon, it was all about mint conditions. And so all of a sudden, instead of having this kind of fun, informal relationship with your cards, you've got to buy them and keep them in special places or else they'll lose their value. And we didn't try to Mickey man. We didn't think about it.
You just put two cards in every pack of the same card, one to play with, one to.
There you go, man.
Brilliant. Now, do you think card collectors have shot themselves in the foot? Until a couple of years ago, it would have been true that a modern card of a player with a swatch of his jersey could conceivably sell for more than the whole jersey. I'm wondering if it's a turnoff. It doesn't make sense.
It's a gimmick.
It makes it seem like a gimmick that the one-of-one card that's got the little tiny part of the swatch, the patch there, and it's autographed, and it's worth more than the whole jersey.
You wonder where the other 3,000
Makes
swatches
no
are.
sense.
How many are in circulation? That was the thing. They've serial numbered them now, but even that has backfired in the sense that it seems contrived.
It's a lot more a bigger market and interest and so forth in baseball card collecting than basketball, right?
Basketball's come on strong, but yes, historically, for sure. Do you get hit up for autograph deals?
Oh, yeah, I've sent hundreds on hundreds. I get them every day. I've got 7 on my desk that just came in that I'll mail out tomorrow. I just sign them and send them back. But I always have a lesson. This is a dad that's trying to get his kids connected with the cars, and they may come from around the world, literally. You got China and Japan and Germany and France. They collect because they have NBA guys now, and they love sport. Anyway, then I've got a lot of pictures of me with Kobe or with Shaq or with Dirk or other players or coach. And I've had those printed off in a nice film style stuff. And I'll put that in there or an autograph just because they had something to say that I thought was significant.
It's nice in you.
So I
That's
just
great, Dale.
do that.
You're encouraging other people to
Art star.
you're nicer than the average
Yeah.
person.